Okay, so let's just get started with the first question. How does your organization manage employee performance?
Well, we do obviously 360 feedback, where we provide constant feedback. I mean, there is a formal time where we do it, but the goal is that, look, we want to feedback when we get when we have results, whether it's good, bad. We want to provide the feedback as soon as possible. So we over the years, obviously it's changed. It went from a very formal, process where you answer questions to now it's more of a discussion, right? So we provide feedback by talking to the people that this employee interact with, and then later on we do the feedback directly with the employee and kind of first get their self assessment and then kind of let them know what we see and kind of compare it to see if there's any big discrepancy, right?
hmm Yeah, I think that the changes that I'm familiar with that you just mentioned were positive changes in the process. So,
Yep.
what does effective performance feedback look like to you?
Well, I guess first it's got to be honest, right? But then yet I think it's got to be respectful. So you don't want the bad to kind of dominate the good. So it's got to me it has to be balanced. So it's got to have the positives and the areas of improvement. And I think obviously the areas of improvement are sometimes difficult conversation or difficult to employ to hear. So not to sugarcoat it, but it needs to be done in a positive way, right? And so I think again, I think it's important. You can't just have all good. It's got to be the good and the bad, So
Yeah. How do you empower your employees in the workforce, and what positive effects have you seen from these efforts?
I would say the thing you do to empower employee is probably give them decision rights and ownership. You know, I think that's I think every employee needs to do that. And then obviously most of my employees are in leadership positions, so that's actually written in their R&E, right? They got decision rights. But I think the positive you see from that is that you give them decision. I think you give them decision rights, give them the ownership, right? Because they're making the decision, and then they've got to live with their decision, and that's the ownership part. So I think that's kind of the one of the key to do it, and obviously depending on the employee's maybe experience and how long he's been with the company and maybe his role, the decision rights could be different. But I think you
Right.
always have to. I think every employees, even if somebody that just comes in, you've got to give him some decision right so that he can kind of take ownership on those decisions he makes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As I progressed in my career, I know it was interesting to see the different management levels, and when I got to the CEO type level, president of the company, the way that they would manage was so much different, and it allowed me to learn so much more when I was empowered and I was had latitude to make decisions. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you think about the best leader you've worked with, what traits set them apart?
Best leader. Um, I would say probably they stay involved, but not micromanage. If you know what I mean, it's like they're not aloof, So they're always kind of in the mix of talking to people and in some respect, has a personal connection with the employees. Now, obviously, in some cases is more so than the others, but I guess I'm just looking at myself. If I go back to the kind of the leaders or my supervisors that I really liked, and luckily in my career I've always had good, except the first one when I came out of work, but I only had it for 2 years, but I think
Yeah,
they always stay connected,
yeah,
in both a professional level and a personal level, but then yet gave you room to kind of breathe, not kind of looking over your shoulder the whole time, So again, it's a fine line, I think, but it was one of those where you know you're not afraid to ask them a question, right? And they're always accessible. You know, is that they don't have their doors closed, right? Doors open. So you got a question, you know, you don't have to, you know, schedule appointment ahead of time to come and talk to about the question. You know, so I think that those are the ones I think the best leaders.
Yeah, definitely agree. What is your leadership like style or philosophy?
Well, I mean, obviously, I tried to do the same. You know, as the you know, my supervisors that were role models, I tried to do the same. So I do try to get connected from a you know professional level and everything. Um, I think my philosophy also is the fact that I'm always looking for that employee that that's going to take my job, right? I mean, that's what I want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, recently we had a discussion about it, and I noticed that this guy, you know, said, "Hey, man, I don't know what else he can do." So he's making up roles for this person. So it's making up roles that he said it was between this guy's current role and his role. And I said, "Look, you know, I think what you should do is, you know, his next role, if there's nothing in between, it's your role. Put that down, right?
Hmm.
Because you know, one is I think if you, or even in a role that's higher than you know, because I think maybe because you know I know that there's a limited time left in my career, but the way I look at it is, you know, if this employee, you know, that I picked or I interviewed and I developed, you know, goes on to do bigger and better things, that's just a testament to you know my you know leadership hopefully and my you know how I train them and everything like that. So I guess that's my philosophy. I mean, I can't worry about the hey, this guy's doing so good that you know he's going to take my role. You know, you know if my employee gets in trouble, I think that that is also a testament that hey, look, I didn't do a good job, right? Obviously, you know from a compliance role that
Yeah.
we take the leaders responsible for you know some of that stuff. So I think that's you know that's kind of you know the way I look at things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So, what does a good follower look like to you?
Follower. What do you mean by follower? Like
Yeah, so in
you're
our class, we've been studying, followers and leaders, and so any leader has followers who may, in
oh
your case,
employees.
yeah, the employees, basically the employees that report to you. So when you look at, people that report to you, and what are the traits or mostly around traits that you think are the most desirable?
Yeah, I think you know they obviously cannot be. I think definitely. I think for me, you know, obviously the obvious, right? You know, they have the knowledge. You know, they want if they don't have it, they want to acquire the knowledge. They always want to grow. You know, so they are you know a little bit of self starter, if you will. You don't have to always kind of remind him, hey, turn this in or do that, and why don't you do this, and you know, kind of you know I mean like what you do with kids, right? You don't want that. You want them to you want to say, hey, look, this is what I envision for you. Do you agree? And if you do, you figure out a way to get there. So a self-starter I think is important. But then I think another thing that's important is that they can't be shy in the fact that they can't be yes man, right? I mean, they can't just say agree to everything because you know I'm never that good, right? I mean, I know that there's going to be different opinion, and I want them to be able to challenge, and I'm hope that I'm open enough that they can at least give me their opinion and say, well, I don't quite agree. I would think this way, and then have a respectful conversation around it, and then we make a decision, and then once that decision is made, then you kind of just you know you everyone's got to support it, whether it's the you
Right.
know the decision is based on what this the follower you say you know or is based on you know my suggestion, but I do want not a guy that just that's why I asked what's a follower, but
Yeah.
I would say it's probably more of a you know it's you know somebody that does challenge, you know, and
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
know that we have that challenge process, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really important. Like you said, if you have a bunch of people that just sort of do what you say, you're really not going to get the best outcomes with that, because none of us know everything about everything. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay. So what does a good leader look like to you? kind of along the same lines, but
Yeah. Well, I guess if I look at one's a trait, right? I mean, those are the leadership trait, and obviously all that applies to this question. But I would say another aspect of a good leader is at the end of the day, this person has to produce results, right? And these could be very tangible results, like produce earnings, beat the targets, all that stuff. I think a good leader has to do that, because if you're all talk and everything like that, but everything you say uh, is wrong, right?
yeah,
Then you're not really a good leader. I mean, maybe that leader should kind of maybe get more connected with the market, or gain some more knowledge, right? But I think in addition to all those traits, I think a good leader has got to drive results, right? I mean, you at the end of the day, I mean, I'm sure unless you own the company, you all have shareholders, and you always you hear that from our philosophy, right? Give the shareholders their value, and that's what leader needs to do, right? They need to, obviously, if the market is just not there, or something that's beyond that person's control, nothing can be done about that. But I can't believe that you would want to stick with a leader so long if that person's not producing results for consecutive years, or maybe 4 or 5 years, right?
right,
I think it's time to move him out of, maybe he can lead in somewhere else, right?
right. Okay, well, I really appreciate it. I'm
Did we get
gonna.
our 10, 12 minutes?
I think so. I think we're there. So I'm
Good.
gonna stop recording. So.
Okay, all right.